to Jake Jackets. Gear up to fire the cannon and hit the ice with your host, Jay Ashdown and Jake Gehringer.
So we're moving on to the East today. And we're doing the Atlantic.
Right.
And I mean, we're recording this a lot late. Well, not a lot later than last week, but I'm cut out for a late night again. I tweeted about this, and I mean, we're getting this to you, everybody. We're having fun. And we're still, the previews continue on.
Of course. We march on.
We march on indeed. We're gonna start with the boys that I'm wearing. Because why not?
Sure.
I know we got a lot of our friends are in Leafland. So there are three big things that I really want to address with Toronto in regards to their season this year, right?
Yes.
Because we know the constant narratives. Right. And we know who's going to be good. We know that they really need to show up in the playoffs more than anything.
Yeah, it's yet another season where the regular season doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't matter where they finish,
as long as they're
as long as they make the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs, then it's a disaster.
Then it's a dumpster fire. But the three big things I want to hit: the goaltending.
Yes.
The depth.
Yeah.
And really the expectations of the defense, especially now that Sandin is signed and a lot of their worrisome narratives were all taken care of.
Yeah.
At this
I think that all things considered, I think they had a good offseason. And one of the things I think they did well was managing their cap situation to the best of their abilities, starting with trading away Peter Mrazek in a deal that they really didn't lose much.
No, yeah, the Mrazek deal they did pretty well on.
Usually like we saw it that same night. When you trade away a player and it's a cap dump deal, you usually have to give up a lot more. And we saw that when Kassian went to the Coyotes, right?
Yes, he's in Arizona now.
So, and they had to give up, I believe, they moved down in the draft. They swapped picks with the Coyotes, and they gave them 2 second-round picks, if I'm not mistaken.
The Oilers did, yes.
Yes. Whereas with Dubas and this deal, they moved down 14 slots in the draft, and that was that.
Pretty much. They only moved down in the draft. They didn't really give up anything.
Yeah, which, and historically speaking, just in terms of, if you're taking into consideration wins above replacement for draft picks, the difference between pick 25 and 39, I believe that's the draft picks that were exchanged.
Yes.
If I'm
somewhere in that area, yes.
Frame. The difference between those two picks is not significant.
Not really when you consider late first rounders and then
early second rounders. It's very similar in terms of
it's cut and dry unless you hit unless you really hit on a Sebastian Aho or those kinds of players, right?
But yeah, it's generally speaking, the difference between pick 25 and 40 isn't really that significant, because it's a lot of the same kind of players going in those spots. It's the guys who have talent, but maybe their games aren't quite as refined.
So we hit the general. Okay. So their tandem going into this year, after Campbell left for Edmonton, is Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov.
And the objective is, well, for one, we're going to get a goaltender with first-round pedigree and Ilya Samsonov for cheap. We don't give up anything for him. Love that deal. But Matt Murray we're just going to get a guy who's done it.
Well, the thing that I have concerns about this tandem, and I also really want to give these guys a chance
Yeah.
because at this point in their careers, Sammy's our age, right?
Right.
But he hasn't shown much at all.
He's a little older than us, or a little older than me at least. He's your age.
Yeah, he's about my age.
He's 25.
Yes.
And for a first round pick of a goaltender, has not panned out the way that Washington especially had hoped.
He got a cup ring as a backup.
Did he really? I don't think he was there.
I'm pretty sure he backed up Holtby that year.
No, it was Grubauer.
Oh, it was Philip. Okay. That never mind then. But yeah. So the tandem last year in Washington with Sammy and Vitek, Vanacek was really hit or miss.
Yeah.
Just because they were both so young.
And Vitek Vanacek was the guy who very much held down the fort at times in the regular season.
Yes.
Whereas Samsonov was the one who actually kind of kept them in the series against Florida when he replaced him.
Yes. Sammy is a guy that, again, he's young. He's got time. Right?
Yeah. He's a goalie. Goalies take a while to develop sometimes.
Yes. Sometimes you won't see a goalie reach like their full potential until around 27. 28.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, you gotta give this kid some leeway, right?
Of course. He's gonna get another 2-3 years in this league, whether it be Toronto or maybe somewhere else next year. He's gonna get time. That judgment day about whether or not he stays in this league or what his role in this league will come in about 3 years.
Right. So Sammy, I would assume gets they're going to 1A, 1B this. I'm going to assume Sammy gets less starts than Murray, depending on Matt's health.
Yes, in a vacuum.
In a vacuum, that's how that should,
healthy,
yes.
You would want Matt Murray to get more starts.
Yes. Now let's talk about Matt Murray. For this guy is, he's another 90s guy, 94.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because he's the oldest out of this depth chart here that I'm looking at. And he goes from being a back-to-back cup winner from a tandem and a savior
for Stinjari to a very, very large deal in Ottawa to being traded in division with their team holding back some of his cap hit.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to deal with injury.
Yep.
A lot of that also has to deal with, especially last year, with him losing his dad. There were a lot of players that lost fathers as just family.
Yeah.
There was a lot of grief going around the National Hockey League last year, and
it's been a rough last 2 years, and I don't know if it's all connected to COVID in terms of how things have kind of taken a damper at times.
Mm-hmm.
But no doubt about it, since 2020, things have been kind of down in the NHL. But
yeah, and Matt's a guy, again, for one thing, it was injuries. Yeah. For another thing, Ottawa was just abysmal when they shouldn't have been.
Well, and their strength lies in their offense and not with the defense. So, Thomas Chabot's a nice young defenseman, but not a ton around him.
Not a ton when it comes to actual defense, and especially when you're playing a guy 30 minutes a night. But anyway, we'll get to him in a minute. We'll get to him when we actually get to Ottawa.
Yeah.
So Murray's technically he's older, but he's and he's established, but he's another reclamation project.
Yeah, this is where this season is so interesting for Toronto specifically. Obviously, they're always interesting because they're the most talked about team in the league.
It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, come on. I have a Mitch Marner jersey for a reason.
They're interesting when they suck. They're interesting when they're mid. They're interesting when they're good. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. They're always interesting. And I kind of like this goaltending group
Mhm.
solely because with both guys being reclamation projects, you just need one of them to hit.
Right. And then if one of them goes down, like, I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be Murray because that's just how his pattern has been.
Yeah. You
Like,
still got Shelgren.
you still have Shelley, and I'm I'm actually pretty excited for Shelley.
Yeah.
And then there's Joseph Wool also
Who's-
down there with the Marlies.
They have interesting depth. I mean, you don't want to be starting Joseph Wool or Eric Shelgren a ton, but you can
No.
start them in games at a pinch. Um, I
And
think
all of them have looked really good so far this preseason. Like Murray's looked very, very good.
yeah. I think Matt Murray could be the solution. He could be. That the reason I like this is for one simple word. Goalie.
And I
It's
mean,
the most
you
confusing
are
fucking position on the planet. Matt Murray could continue this pattern of being injury prone and not having good numbers. He could also give you a 915 this upcoming season. You don't know. It's
he
just
had a 9
position.
20 last year, even though he only played 20 games.
It dipped because he had like 2 bad starts at the end, but like for most of the season, like to start, there was a stretch where he was very, very good.
Yeah.
He's got it in him. He's won 2 cups for a reason. It's
He's-
not just because the team that was in front of him. Look at the numbers. He was outstanding in those playoffs.
He still has what it takes.
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately what Toronto wants. You get 2 different things in these reclamation projects. You get one very high skilled goaltender with a very, very good frame who's on a 1-year deal looking to kind of cash in on this opportunity. And Samsonov. I love that about him. On the other hand, you've got a reclamation project, a guy who has struggled with injuries, struggled with his play, but has shown you on 2 occasions he can get it done in the playoffs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that's their goaltending. The scoring depth.
It's excellent.
I love the moves that Kyle made this summer in regards to getting guys like Abe Kubel, bringing in Adam Gaudette on a PTO.
Zach Aston Reese.
I really hope they sign him.
Yeah, I think they will. I think the beauty of what Kyle is trying to do is I think they've tried these last few years.
Callie Yarncroke, we mentioned him plenty already.
Yeah, right. They've tried in the past to get tougher. We're going to get Kyle Clifford. We're going to get Wayne Simmons. We don't want anybody pushing us around. At the end of the day, I think you have to lean into what you are.
Yes.
Toronto is a high-skilled team.
High octane.
Yes. And I think they just need to lean into that and let their top gunners go and not focus on doing what they aren't. They're not built for that kind of style of hockey. Right. So in the bottom 6, rather than try and be tough, get shut down guys.
Yes.
Make it so the game relies on the top 6. It's our top 6 versus their top 6. Yes. Our bottom 6 isn't going to provide offense, but they're going to make sure their bottom 6 doesn't.
Exactly.
Or their top 6, depending on if they're matching up during different situations through the game. But at the end of the day, in the playoffs, we want it to be our top 6 versus their top 6 because our top 6 is better than theirs.
I've mentioned this plenty on Discord. My perfect third shutdown line for the Leafs this year: Yarncroke, Kampf,
and Aston Reese, right?
And Aston Reese, yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Abe Cabell, you can go either one of them. They got shut down guys. Kampf was awesome for him last year.
Another guy that looks really good so far, Dennis Malgin.
Yeah, they brought him back. He might be something. Who knows? Maybe he provides a little bit of an offensive punch that you've been looking for.
Now, the big issue right now is Johnny T is going to be out for a while.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss Tavares for at least the start of the season.
I would argue that might not be the worst thing.
You could put Kerfoot in there.
Yeah.
Because he can play second line minutes easily.
Honestly, it's not a bad opportunity, especially at the beginning of the season when you're very experimental. Give Robertson a shot.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, is like Robbie's looked amazing this preseason. He's leading the team with like 8 points,
Yeah,
like 8 or 9 points so far.
give him a chance.
And but that's the thing is like, you bring in guys like Gadet and you bring in, they have Joey Anderson that can do bottom six stuff. But I really want to see Nicky on that left side.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect opportunity. That's the thing we always talk about. The one positive about injuries is their opportunities,
Yes.
and this is what they've been kind of waiting for Nick Robertson. They've been waiting for him to have an opportunity to step in and really grab his place in the lineup and hold on to it for dear life.
Nick, Kerfoot, Willie. How does that sound for your second line?
It sounds excellent. And that's a lot of
and I mean your mainstay top line is Bunting, Matthews, Marner. That's
that you're not breaking that apart. You shouldn't break that apart.
You shouldn't break it apart, and like unless it's dire and you really want to experiment. And I've seen Keefe do that with Mitch specifically.
Yeah, and that's something, frankly, you do in the first 25 games of the season, I would say.
They're going to
experimental time. Do it then.
What's even funnier is, like, have you seen what they've been doing with the forwards on defense?
Yeah, they've been playing Marner on defense, haven't they?
They've been playing Mitch on defense, and then they had an entire pair, like, for a little while that was two forwards.
Yeah.
It was Yarncroke and Kerfoot.
That's interesting.
It was awesome.
I wonder what the significance of that is. Is that a legitimate plan to maybe throw that out there sometimes?
I think because they did it early, it's something that is a fun experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because you have guys that are defensively responsible, I think it could be like a penalty kill strategy.
Yeah.
It could be an extra attacker kind of strategy. It's one of those things, right?
Could be.
Where you use it in those kind of special circumstances.
Right. Yeah. I'm not against it in the right circumstance. I just I'm curious as to if they have any legitimate plans for that.
And then you also have like Eberzazy.
Yeah, Nick. Yeah, he's it's interesting to see where he's going to fit in. I think
he learned a lot from Jason these last couple of seasons. He learned a lot from Spezza.
Yeah, the double Z's got to stay together.
Hell yeah, they do.
I think we're not going to see a ton of him in the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine if we see him, it'll probably be later in the season.
Yeah, it'll be like as injuries occur, you're going to see him and guys like Steves.
Yeah.
But
the depth is phenomenal.
Their depth is friggin' amazing. This is probably the best depth I've ever seen a Leafs roster have since I started following them closer.
I think they're solid enough on defense. I still would like them to address that at the deadline, and I think that's probably a plan of theirs. But
one last thing with the forwards, though, is that Bunce is in a contract year.
Yeah.
Michael's in a contract year, so you really got to make sure you're careful with that.
Yes, especially with your longer term in terms of contracts in mind in Matthews.
Well, specifically Austin, because like everybody's talking about him already.
Yeah,
even though he doesn't.
And everyone's like, "Is he going to leave?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like, come on, guys. But yeah, that's really it when it comes to the forwards. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to be just fine.
We know what they are. They're a playoff team. They're very good in the regular season. Like I said, this doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the playoffs.
Exactly. And addressing the defense, they bring in, depth defenders again, because that's really all you really need.
Yeah, they brought in Victor Mete, which I think
they brought in Mete and Jordy Ben.
Yeah. Don't think they plan too much on Jordy Ben playing a ton. He's very much their bruiser who's a depth. But Victor Mete, I think, is interesting. He looked pretty good in the preseason games from what I've seen of Toronto so far.
You know what you have in Riley Brody. You know what you have in Jake Muzzin.
That's the biggest question on defense is Muzzin.
Is
And
Muzzin's
less
health?
about his
Yes.
play. Yeah.
A lot of Toronto comes down to injuries,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know this. Like,
Yeah, they also kept Justin Hall around, which was a little surprising, but he's also in a contract year. I think they like his versatility.
Could be
Especially a shot.
Could be a deadline guy, at least for just money, for cap reasons. As much as they like the guy, like I can see that being a deadline move. The big thing with the defense was locking in Sandin and making sure he got signed before camp.
Yeah, they got both him and Liljegren on 2-year deals.
Yep.
And in sheltered roles, they played very, very well. There's a lot of upside with the two of them. So we'll see how they play this year. That's another big storyline, because if they do make it to the playoffs, which they will, and advance in a round or 2 or 3, those two are going to have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and I think keeping Mark Giordano around also helps that.
Especially the cap hit that you capped him at.
Yeah, he's making what?
800,000.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And it was multi-year, it was 2 years.
Yeah, it's like you've got the perfect mentor for both of those kids.
Yeah, Jason Spezza left, and Mark Giordano was like, "All right, thank you. I will take your contract."
And look at me. I'm the teacher now.
Yeah.
These guys are going to be amazing. And, barring injuries, I'm going to say second.
I put them at second too.
Yeah. Okay.
Mainly because of goaltending. I think talent-wise, they probably have the best team.
Oh yeah, in terms of just skaters, they have unlimited possibilities.
Yeah, and I still like Keefe as a coach. I think he learned a lot in these last year in these playoffs. I still have some faith in him.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, only thing that matters is the playoffs. So, but second's my prediction.
Yeah. Let's go and see their brethren in the Battle of Ontario and Ottawa.
Probably off-season champions outside of Calgary.
One of the more interesting off seasons for sure.
They long-term extended Tim Stützle, Josh Norris. They bring in Claude Giroux.
And Alex DeBrincat.
Like, they're locking in their core. There's so much potential there. I like this team a lot. They also, I want to say around the trade deadline, they locked in Anton Forsberg, and then
Forsberg got
Cam Talbot. Now Cam Talbot's going to be out for a little bit, but I like him.
Yes, Cam is going to be out for 5 to 7 weeks.
Yeah,
and that's really, really tough. So, and you know how much we love Forsberg from his time in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice that he's finally found a home.
Yep.
And this is really his chance with Cam out.
Mm-hmm.
This is his big chance to show what he can do.
Yeah, this is his mat, so
they claimed Magnus Hellberg off waivers from Seattle, but they also have Mandalese. They have friggin' Sogard.
Yeah, they got big fucking goalies.
They have amazing goalie depth.
Like Sogard and Mandalese, I think, are both 6'6", 6'7". They're huge.
Mandalese is 6'4" and Sogard 6'7".
Jesus.
And Hellberg is 6'6".
Yeah, they love their big goalies.
They love their tall boys in net. Like literally Forsberg and Bebo, who is their, mentor in the AHL.
Yeah, he's their Berube.
The two of them are the shortest guys, and they're 6'3".
Yeah, I should tell you. Yeah, I like what they did this off season. I still think they're a little bit away from contending just because of their defense. I really like Thomas Chabot, and I like potential in both Jake Sanderson and Jacob Bernard Docker.
Yes, I love what Artem Zub does.
Artem Zub's great,
Artem Zub is friggin' amazing.
but Sanderson and JBD are both very young, so there's going to be some growing pains there.
And then there's also Eric Brandstrom.
He's also young, showed a little bit to me towards the end of the season, so I'm interested to see if he can expand on that this season. At least offensively. He doesn't have to be great defensively if he brings his offensive game, which we know he has.
Think about a guy that I haven't said yet.
Is it Nikita Zaitsev?
It's number 22.
Yeah.
Guess what? He has been not making these last couple preseason rosters.
Really?
He has not made either of the last couple of preseason game rosters.
Interesting. And I don't know if they're sheltering him, preparing for the regular season or whatnot, but what is there to say about Nikita Zaitsev? He's a bigger guy.
It's funny because I love trolling my buddies in there about like a Brandy Zeit third pair,
Mm-hmm.
just to be an asshole and just to have fun. But in all honesty, like as much as DJ Smith loves this guy, they got to get rid of him.
Yeah. And I've said this before. There's always a place for someone like Nikita Zaitsev in the NHL, and there's always a role for someone like Nikita Zaitsev in the NHL. There's a role for Erica Branson in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when they're making $4+ million.
Yes.
Oh, it's a problem when they're making $2+ million. You know, who's a perfect example of success, at that role? Zach Bogosian, who's making $850,000 against the cap. Luke Shen. Those, they provide value for that amount.
And you got to, you got to recognize that those are guys that you need to, you don't invest a lot of your money in.
You don't invest a lot of money or term, and frankly, time, in the sense that you really don't want to have those guys playing 40+ games for you in regular season. You want to keep that to 20 to 30. Their depth. And unfortunately for the Senators, he's not depth. He is a regular part of their defensive rotation.
Right.
And he has been for years.
They have Travis Hamonic as well,
who is very much in the same fucking boat.
Well, that's the thing with the third pair, right? They have Dave Holden for the left side on their third pair.
And that was interesting.
I like Nick Holden.
I like Nick Holden a lot. So I hope that he can make a difference, at least on the third pair.
Mm-hmm. And I think you can rotate Holden and Brandstrom on that third pair. But I would much rather have a Travis Hamonic than a Nikita Zaitsev on that third pair.
Honestly, I don't really think there's much of a difference between those two.
I know there's not much of a difference, but personally, I would much rather have a Hamonic.
You'd rather have a Hamonic because at least you've had a few years in the past where he was good.
I see a guy that makes way less mistakes.
You see, yeah, there's more potential for less fuck-ups.
Yes.
AKA there's less potential for significant fuck-ups, even though they happen. You know what I mean?
So it's like the defense is a little bit of a question mark.
I'd say it's a question mark. It's a big question mark. It's definitely their biggest.
And the goalies, like I like their goalies.
Their goaltending's a question mark only because of the Talbot injury to start.
Yeah. Because we know what Forsberg can do, and it's nice that he's finally getting like his actual opportunity.
Yeah, I think he's a solid guy. I don't think this is a flash in the pan Carter Hutton 30-game stretch where he's solid and then gets a nice deal. No, I think he's legit, and there's a reason they brought in Cam Talbot because they believe that this is their best goaltending rotation that they could provide for this season.
And then this entire forward core: Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux. I'm just friggin'
Alex
Josh
Thornton, Drake Batherson.
Now,
There's some uncertainty.
There's uncertainty around forms,
Yeah.
right?
I
With
thought
the
it was,
hockey.
is it Batherson too, or
I don't know so much about Bath. I'm pretty sure the majority of it is targeted at format
okay?
around the Hockey Canada stuff. And we haven't talked about the Hockey Canada stuff because I really kind of want to save that for a deep dive episode.
And when we know more, I don't want to speculate.
There've been a lot of hearings recently. There's a lot of information still coming out from those hearings.
Mhm.
The actual, it's funny, it's kind of wild. The federal government during the hearings laid the hammer down on the
Yeah.
Hockey Canada people today.
Right. And in fairness to the players of the team in terms of speculation, a lot of these hearings have been really all the hearings have just been about Hockey Canada, what they knew, what they did about it, how they operate. It really hasn't had anything to do with the players. Those will come at a later point in time.
Yes.
At this point, it's a focus on Hockey Canada and
the way they've run their organization.
Yes.
Anyway, back to the Sens. So I love these guys. They're chaotic. Like they've really played up into the chaos bit.
It's the pesky Sens.
It's amazing.
They're back.
Like seriously, Brady Tkachuk is the perfect captain for this team. Is he not?
100%. He fits exactly what this team.
And then this third, imagine a third line of newcomer Tyler fucking Mott with Shane Pinto and Matthew Joseph.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant third line.
Matthew Joseph's really good too. Like they've done a really good job loading up this forward group.
That top line, that top nine is just amazing.
It's excellent. They can hold their own offensively in a game against Toronto or Tampa. They can hang with the best of them in terms of offense, I think.
And this is why, like, I know there's question marks around this team, but this is why I have the Ottawa Senators in 4th in the Atlantic.
Nice. I picked them for 5th.
You picked 5th? Okay.
I still have too many question marks around the defense. Just uncertainty with goaltending, only because knowing that that Talbot's out, you are one injury away from Kevin Mandolese, and
you really got to hold the fort down these first few weeks, right?
It's not just playing well in net to start this season for Forsberg; it's just staying healthy too.
Yeah.
So, I think they take a step. I think they're going to be fun as hell. I think they're going to be a pain in the ass to play.
They've been so much fun to watch for the past 2 years, even.
I think people are going to realize that this team should be all in on DJ Smith. I'm a big believer in DJ Smith as a coach.
I definitely think that it's nice that it's finally been time that Pierre can do his thing. Pierre Dorian being able to do his thing
for a while, that it's hard to judge him as a GM because of the shackles he's had on him because of
Eugene Melnyk.
And wouldn't you know it, he just had he had arguably the best offseason.
And it's like, it's extremely sad circumstances. Like,
of course.
Because absolutely. I mean, like, he's a billionaire. He's not like a criminal bad person in that sense. Right. But at the same time, he's a cheap billionaire. He's been sleazy.
Very, very sleazy. Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Sleazy is a little bit kinder of a term.
I think it's the most accurate way to describe him because it's not too harsh, but I think it's probably the most accurate.
Yeah. And now that like his daughters are learning the ropes, they want to get into it, but they're letting the hockey guys do their thing.
And they're just saying, run your business, run what you got to do, make this team good.
Exactly. And they're just saying, yes, we want to improve now. Let's do this now.
I think you're going to see 3 things happen this year. You're going to see this team improve, and people are really going to get on board with, DJ Smith. So those are the first 2 things. And then I think the third thing, I think you're going to see a significant rise in ticket revenue.
I would hope so.
I think the circumstances around this team getting a guy like Claude Giroux, bringing in Alex DeBrincat, and letting your GM finally be able to do some work, there's hope around this team, and also there's just now an understanding for this fan base that this team cares about winning.
Yes.
This isn't just a money maker. This team cares about winning. And I think that is going to push people to go to games.
Well, people realize, like, the management and everybody has realized it's more like winning brings money. Like, that's
Yeah, it does. You might have to spend a little bit more, but you can make that much more if you win.
Yeah. So me 4th, you 5th.
Yes.
That works. Let's go to the guys that play where you went to school.
All right.
The Sabres are interesting. I like that they're improving.
Yeah, I think they're taking the necessary steps. This is very much a team that cares about player development more than they care about winning games right now. I think
Tage Thompson getting this huge deal.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of question marks about it, but I'm all about that deal.
I mean, they believe in him.
I believe in him 100%.
Alex Tuck and Krebs.
Tuck, Krebs. You've got Dylan Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be getting to see more of JJ Peterka and Jack Quinn.
You got Victor down there.
You're going to see a whole entire season of Owen Power.
Yes, Calder friggin' favorite right now.
You're going to see an improved Rasmus Dahlin, who was excellent in the second half of the season last year.
They bring in a brilliant shutdown guy in Ilya Labushkin.
Yeah, big physical defenseman who
like they didn't make a lot of big moves,
and I like that. I like that a lot.
I have a feeling that that's why Kevin Adams got his extension.
I think they believe in what he's building. I think you look at their prospects. You've got in the goaltending pipeline, you got Devin Levi.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Eric Portillo at Michigan. Mm-hmm. And there's still maybe some hope about UPL potentially stepping up.
That's the thing. That's my biggest question with this team, because I know you love Don Granato.
I do. I firmly believe in this coach. I really do.
The forwards, we know what they are. They have room to grow. And
those players have bought into Don Granato.
Yes, and you need 100%. To have a buy-in with your coach. And the defense is a bit more question mark. I want to see Rasmus take a step. I want to see what Owen's got.
Mm-hmm.
I want to
see Yoki Haru really step up.
I've got so many high hopes for Henry. Like, I love this
guy.
He
bounce back. We've seen the potential with him in Chicago. We saw it his first year in Buffalo, and it's been a brutal last couple of years for him.
And then, like, you got really, really young guys still, like Bryson and Clegg.
Yeah, Jacob Bryson was actually very good for them. Matthias Samuelsson was excellent last year. Very, very good underlying numbers with Samuelsson and Bryson. So a lot of hope there. The forward group's interesting because there are guys who've been there for quite some time who still bring a ton of value. Kyle Opozo, talk about a renaissance last year.
Oh, he was brilliant. For the Sabres, he was brilliant.
And we've talked about future captain material, and we've brought up Alex Tuck because he's a local guy, but the front runner actually right now is Opozo.
Well, that's what we talked about when Jacob Trouba got named captain of the Rangers, right? Like,
right.
In terms of stepping stone captains,
could be the scenario.
It could be Kyle, and then bring in Tuck a couple years later.
Yeah, and you also have a young guy in Casey Middlestat who played pretty well when Granato first took over. Had some injuries last year. This is a big year for Casey Middlestat. I think this is a year where this organization kind of decides what his future with them is. And I'm hoping that he takes it head on and provides, a solid option in the middle six.
It's nice that we're finally being able to talk about Buffalo in a positive light.
Yeah, I think they've earned it. They it's not a great team, but you can see they actually have a bright future.
Yeah. Now, this is my biggest question to you, because you still think so much higher about Levi over UPL.
Yes. And I firmly believe the organization does as well.
They bring Craig Anderson back.
On a 1-year deal. Yeah. They loved Craig Anderson. They were really hoping that he would be willing to play another year because he was awesome.
This is why, because you being the resident goalie, I really want to talk about these goalies with you.
Yeah.
So you bring Craig back, and he's a great mentor goalie, right?
Yep.
With his age, literally, dude, his age is his jersey number. Come on.
He's old as fuck.
Come on. The backup spot is interesting because is it going to be Craig or is it going to be Eric Comrie, who left Winnipeg?
It's going to be Craig Anderson. Craig Anderson's going to be the backup of this team. I think.
Do you think Comrie has what it takes to be a starter?
It's a question that they're hoping will be answered this year. We've seen the potential for him. He was a higher draft pick for a goaltender. Played pretty well last year for Winnipeg. He played in 19 games. He was 10-5. He had a .920 save percentage.
He's playing under Connor Hellebuck. Like, you're not going to get much time if you're playing under a guy like Connor Hellebuck.
This is a guy who's had a total of 28 games played in the NHL.
Oh my gosh.
They signed him to, I think, what was it, 1.15 over the next 2 years.
Something really cheap.
It's the ultimate buy low move.
Yeah.
This guy played well in very, very sheltered minutes. Didn't have a ton of time, but played well. Former high draft pick. We're not paying a ton to him. Let's see if we have something here.
Yeah.
If we don't, it doesn't matter because we're not expected to go to the playoffs. We're just trying to build a better culture here. We're trying to develop our forwards and our defensemen. If he's not that great of a goaltender, the fuck does it matter? That's nothing. You can get rid of that incredibly easily.
It's about time the Pagulas did this and just let the hockey people do their thing.
And that's a major part of why there's hope in Buffalo. You can tell Kevin Adams can do his job.
Yes.
Don Granato can do his job. And with the goaltending, this is the last year of Craig Anderson. And if Comrie's not the guy, well, you can buy him out this offseason for next to nothing, or you can just keep him as a backup and bring up UPL if he plays well this year, whether it be in the A or the NHL, or if they decide he's not their guy, they can move on. Or Devin Levi.
Devin, if he's ready, I don't know. That's the thing is like goalies are also
making that jump.
Do you really want him to make that jump right now?
From college this season to NHL next season? It's a big question.
I don't think I want to see that.
Yeah.
Personally, like just to be cautious.
Same.
So go out in the market and get a guy that can probably get you decent starter minutes. If you have to. That's next year. That's not this year.
And that might be the plan. Is even if UPL or Eric Comrie are not great, they're still locked up for 2 years each. And after Craig Anderson's gone this year, that might be your tandem next year, just to keep Levi in the minors.
Yes.
And let him develop.
I have them finishing 7th.
I have them finishing 7th as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right, moving on. Detroit.
Yeah, this is... I love this team, man. This is, I think, one of the most underrated teams in terms of off-season success. I love their off-season.
I do think it's funny that for a podcast about the Columbus Blue Jackets, we talk a lot about two teams in the West in particular, in the Canucks and the Coyotes, and then we talk a lot about so many teams in this Atlantic Division.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting teams. The Red Wings are one of the most interesting teams in the league.
Oh, yeah. These guys, one name, Steve Yzerman.
Yeah, he killed it.
He's the mastermind.
He killed it this offseason.
I think the biggest question mark to me for Detroit this year, because I absolutely see them taking a step. Because that's just what the Yzer plan is now just step after step. Right?
He's pretty good at it.
He's definitely good at the gradual growth, right? My biggest question is Derek Lalonde.
Same. That was going to be my biggest question. Let's see. Let's see if this guy is who Steve Yzerman thinks he is as a coach.
I mean, because we know that he's a guy that he knows from his days in Tampa.
Mm-hmm. They had a
Right?
good relationship. And I think just in terms of change, I think it was time. I think change was necessary at the coaching position.
Well, how many times have we called Jeff Blashill the cockroach coach?
That just won't die under the fridge. Yeah.
Seriously. How many times was he the roach coach?
For about 7 years. Regardless if Lalonde is a great coach or not, you will often see for coaches in their first year of the team them have success solely because it's a change.
The biggest moves, like in terms of just bringing guys in that Stevie made.
Oh my God. Where do you want to start? Andrew Kopp, David Perron, Uber Leak.
Billy fucking Huso.
Like they killed it this offseason. They didn't make any gigantic moves. They made, 4 or 5 solid moves.
Yes, these moves aren't exactly page turners,
except for maybe earth shattering.
Except for maybe Billy.
Yeah,
like Billy's probably the biggest one.
I
don't know, because Kopp had that really solid run with the Rangers.
I would say Perron. And what he has done,
yes,
is huge.
Perron is the interesting one, just in terms of his entire career, right? Because he had a season or 2 in Vegas.
Yeah,
but 99% of this career has been spent in St. Louis.
Yep.
And this is the first year he's actually freely left.
Right.
So I'm interested to see what Perron does. I'm interested to see how they tandem Huso with Nedeljkovic.
Yeah, I don't know if they have any preference over which one, because we've seen both these guys very, very similar situations where in a short window played very well and became the guy for a season, then went to Detroit. Now, one of them had a season last year that was all over the map, and the other one we haven't seen yet is a Red Wing.
Yes.
But we know there's potential with both of them. They're both former high second-round picks.
Yes.
Very, very talented. Well, I think he was the second or third, but regardless, very, very talented goaltenders. Late bloomers, I'd say, for where they were drafted.
95 and 96 kids.
Yeah, just for where they were drafted and the expectations that were put on them, they were a little bit of late bloomers, but still so much potential there.
Yeah, these guys, it was funny because I still remember the draft day SDP when the Red Wings got Huso.
Yeah.
And Jesse just screamed bloody murder. He literally, he's got this high-pitched shriek going, "Do this!"
And the other thing that's interesting is you have Nedeljkovic, a 1-year deal.
Because I guess Jesse really wanted Huso. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think at the time a lot of people in Toronto wanted Huso.
I guess. But yeah, the goalies are very, very interesting, and I do hope that Ned has a nice bounce back.
That's the beauty of this. Much like Toronto, there's potential in your goaltending. You just need one of them to step up.
Yes. They don't have as much depth goalie wise.
No, but I don't know. There's potential that this goaltending tandem could be better than Toronto's. I think a lot of potential that it could be better.
They definitely need to split time down the middle, I think.
Yeah.
They need to really even out starts. Anyway.
Yeah, only because neither one of them have shown that they can handle the workload of 50, 55 games and be consistent throughout it. So I agree with that.
So the forwards, we know you have, Dylan Larkin leading the charge. You got Tyler Bertuzzi,
Jacob Verana, P.U. Seeger,
Robbie Fabry.
Yeah.
Lucas Raymond. Oh my God. How is he like the 5th or 6th guy that we said?
Yeah. They're really good.
And then, they bought
very underrated.
They bought a nice bridge on Philip Zadina this offseason. That was probably one of the bigger moves that Stevie made. was extending Zadina.
To a relatively cheaper deal for 3 years. Keeps him in RFA.
Their depth is nice in guys like Adam Ernie, Zarnik,
Dominic
Jav-
Kubalik,
Kubalik, Luff,
Lundqvist.
Rasmussen.
Mm-hmm.
Oscar Sundqvist is great. Giovanni Smith.
There's potential in the bottom six in terms of the fact that it's still very young bottom six. So you have guys who could also.
And then you have a really young kid that's could come in Elmer Soderblom.
Oh my God, that guy's fucking huge. God. I saw the videos on him and I was like, oh my God, he just parks right in front of the net. He's a nightmare.
He's listed at 6'6", dude.
He's huge.
He's the biggest. Hands. He's the tallest guy they have, and the next tallest guy. Oh no, wait! Him and Rasmussen are both 6'6".
Yeah.
And then the next tallest guy is Sundqvist at 6'3".
Yeah, this guy's gigantic. He parks his ass in front of the net. He's got great puck skills. He's going to be a nightmare for teams.
Oh yeah, and their friggin' defense. They have plenty of names on defense. Where do you want to start? Like, I know you got to start with Moritz Seider.
Simon Edvinsson's going to be excellent.
He's coming in and he's going to be great. Hronek has questions.
A lot of questions around him, for sure. Still a lot of questions in terms of maybe cap hit for Ben Sherratt, but we know what he can do.
You know what he can do. You know what Osterley can do. You know what Pissick can do, even though Pissick's going to be out a bit.
Pissick, I thought, was a very underrated move. He was pretty good last year for Buffalo.
Pissick's a good buy.
Yeah.
And like good cheap buy.
Yeah.
Right? And they also brought in Robert Hagen Olimata.
Yeah, could be a nice 1 year prove it opportunity for Olimata.
Mm-hmm. And Hag too. Like Hag was all right.
Yeah, Hag didn't play a ton last year for Florida after he got traded. You know what he is. He's a 7-8 defenseman.
Mm-hmm. And then there's Jake Wallman, who got Seller and Arb.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, there's Gustav Lindstrom, who's another kid that can friggin' do something.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's names here.
Jared McIsaac, Steven Canfor are also depth. Obviously, McIsaac's a lot younger. So, but no, there's a lot of question marks around this team.
I know I didn't say, like, I know I said I didn't want to make these just reading rosters.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
These guys have a lot going for them. And you got, you're going to have leading the charge, at least on defense, is going to be Mo and Sherratt as your first pair, I would say.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with that. The good thing for
unless you want to go really, really young and crazy and do Edvinsson Insider.
The good thing for Red Wings fans is we saw in the playoffs just literally a year ago, it's not ideal putting Ben Sherratt on the first pair, but if you pair him with someone who can carry him like a Shea Weber, you can make it work. Do I think Mo Seider today is as good as what Shea Weber was in those playoffs? Absolutely. I do. I think he's that good.
It's funny because we tend to judge Calder winners so much harsher than so many of the other young guys. Right?
I don't see any flaws in his game.
It's just like, it's because I don't want to be such a hard, like, I don't want to never budge on Seider. I want to give him plenty of wiggle room because he is young.
Yeah, he is young, for sure. He will make mistakes. Generally speaking, I just don't see any flaws in this game. I think he's going to be great. He's already great.
I do kind of want to see Edvinsson Insider now that I think about it. I want to see them go all
and
out.
I think that's something we're going to see more down the line, probably in a year or two. Mm-hmm. They're going to be incredible together. But as you said, for the start of the season, it probably would be a Sherratt.
Sherratt Seider first.
Potentially, yeah.
And then when you put Edvinsson on the second pair, and then
maybe you put him with Hronek.
Okay. Anyway, standings wise, I think they finished 6th.
I have them finishing 4th.
You have them 4th.
Yes. I think
That's-
they're going to take a major jump. I love
You
the
th-
forward group. I like the goaltending.
You think they're the
Defense is a
ones that are
question.
going to knock the regular spot out? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Because we're
I
calling
have
this
less questions about their goaltending than Ottawa.
we are calling this show the haves and have-nots because
Mhm.
this division is absolutely a division of haves and have-nots.
Yes.
Even now, with so many moving parts,
Yes.
it's a very straightforward division still for whatever reason. There are a couple of teams that can fluctuate this year because the biggest thing is that 4th place spot.
It's huge because that might be a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Depending on the Metro.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to a team that I believe is going to be the team that knocks out of that 4th spot.
And that's Boston.
That's the Boston Bruins.
And
We
it's
talked
something
a
against the team.
lot about I can link our discussion on Boston because we had a big discussion on Boston a few episodes ago.
Yeah. I like Jim Montgomery as the coach. I like their goaltending.
Yep.
With Olmark and Swayman. They're great.
Mm-hmm.
I have too many question marks about injuries.
They brought in Keith Kincaid as a nice insurance policy.
Yeah. Which doesn't really affect how I feel about their goaltending too much. It's just depth.
And I mean,
it's the injuries, and there's nothing you can do about it,
Boston
be able to overcome that, but losing Brad Marchand for significant time, losing Charlie McAvoy, your number one defenseman for significant.
Dude, we talked about how many defensemen they've lost and how big roles they have because you're losing Charlie, you're losing Grizz, and you're losing friggin' Mike Riley.
That's brutal.
It's so brutal.
It's tough. The reason I don't like it is because you got a new coach coming in. I do like the coach, but it feels like you're gonna be battling most of the season from behind, and I don't think they have the firepower to overcome it.
They brought in Anton Strawman on a PTO.
And they might sign him out of necessity just for needing bodies. For
just needing guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, do you bring up Akan? Do you bring up Carrick more?
Oh, my God.
Nick Wolf got put on waivers to go to Providence today.
Just think
when we're recording this today.
These aren't NHL names.
No.
Bodies.
Hampus Lindholm is your biggest NHL body, and he's going to be your number 1D for until Charlie gets back.
And I like Hampus Lindholm. I
love Hampus.
I don't. He shouldn't be a number 1 defenseman, and he's not their number 1 defenseman. He's just in that role for the time being out of necessity, and that's
exactly
a tough spot for him to be in.
And Zaboral's your number 2.
Well, it's Carlo.
Well, okay, Carlo, and then Zaboral. But it's like Lindholm, Carlo, Zaboral, Forbor is your top 4. That's a big hit.
And any one of those could get injured at any time.
Yeah. That's a huge question mark. And that's a big reason why I have them 5th is that huge timetable of losing so much defense.
Yeah, I have them finishing 6th.
Okay. In terms of their forwards, though, I mean, again, I'll just link the description.
They're old. That's the other thing. We're really old.
They are really old.
It's nice bringing Krejci back. I like him.
He's good. Yeah, he's good. I don't know. I want to see what if you want youth to come into this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if they do eventually bring in Fabian Lysell.
Yeah, he's
because he's looked really good in camp. And so has Johnny Beecher. Johnny Beecher's looked all right.
Yeah, Johnny Beecher's an interesting guy too. But if you're going to have youth step up, the 3 big names I think of for guys that need to step up for this team to have a good season and really need to make an impact are Jack Studnicka.
Yep.
I know he's not super young, but you really need to really bring out the best in Pavel Zacha.
Yes. You traded Eric Holla.
Yeah.
for him.
He's a good middle six guy.
And Holla was really, really good for the Bruins.
Yeah. And then the last guy is Trent Frederick.
I love Trent Frederick as a player. I think he's a very solid player. And you know what he can do for such a young guy?
Mm-hmm. But can he step up in a big role?
Well, that's the thing is
they're putting a lot of pressure on these kids.
Yeah, that's the thing is I know that Jake DeBrusk is going to fill Marchie's hole to start.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be DeBrusk with Bergeron. And I mean, Pasta, I know Pasta loves playing with Krejci, but you kind of have to load up that first line if you're losing Brad Marchand.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice.
So then you have Hall with Zacha, probably
Hall,
as your
Zacha,
wingers with Krejci.
and Krejci.
Yeah.
There's potential there, I think, but it's too many question marks for my liking.
Yeah, and again, they're the team that's going to fall out for me.
Yeah, same here. I have them finishing sixth. I have them finishing, I think, lower than you do.
Yeah, I said fifth.
Yeah.
Let's go to their biggest rival and the guys that are the more or less shoo-ins for Connor Bedard. The Montreal Canadiens are something. They are a team.
They are terrible.
They're a team that exists.
The Montreal Canadiens. They're a team.
They have such I don't even know where to start because we talked about the Habs so much this offseason already.
Yeah.
Because they made big moves. And the biggest move they made was their friggin' front office shakeup.
Yeah. They're in a similar situation, I think, to Buffalo, to where they have a coach that I think they like and believe in Marty St. Louis. And the biggest thing is we're going to shift culture here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to focus on developing our young guys. We're going to focus on continuing to develop Nick Suzuki. We're going to focus on developing Uri Salkowski.
That's Captain Nick Suzuki to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And a big part of the season, I think, even though they're not going to be a good team, is how can Marty St. Louis help teach Nick Suzuki how to be the captain of the Montreal Canadiens?
And how can I get the most, as a former, short superstar,
Cole Caulfield.
How can I get the most out of Cole Caulfield as possible?
He got the most out of Cole Caulfield the second half of the season. It was unbelievable. So that's a big part of it, for sure. In a big and on the contrary, how do I get the most out of a big guy who has very much struggled in his career in Kirby Dach?
Yes, and I love Docker. I love Docker.
Yeah. I don't want to take the potential away from the kid. There's still potential.
Man.
He's got a big body. There's definitely some skill to his game, but
I think the question mark relies in your center depth between guys like Monahan and Dvorak.
Yeah. Is Dvorak your 2C, or are you going to try to put Dach at 2C and maybe try Dvorak on the wing?
Yes.
There's some
flexibility. Are you going to try Monahan on the wing with his injuries?
Yeah, or that could very well be a potential opportunity for them. Are you just going to keep Jake Evans in that 4C spot? Are you going to shift him to wing? There's some flexibility there.
Where does the number 1 overall pick in Uri Slafkovsky come in? Does he stay in Laval for most of the year?
Yeah.
Or does he make the team out of camp and...
Personally, with a team that's not expected to be very good, and that it's very much a year that's predicated on player development, I don't see why you don't just have him start the season with Montreal and
give him his tryout and
play him in the top 6 and focus this year on how can we develop our number 1 overall pick to be incredibly useful and significant for us for the future.
Yes. And you have plenty of mentors in there. You have Mike Hoffman, who is, you don't...
More of an empty calorie player, but he's got a good shot.
He's a great goal scorer.
You can help him with goal scoring. He's got some size to his game, too.
You got Brendan Gallagher, who has the size and the skill.
Mm-hmm.
You have, you bring in Evgeny Dodonov
Yeah.
for the Shea Weber trade, for the contract trade.
And, he's probably going to be a deadline deal. But, for the first 50 games of the season, he can provide some value for you.
Here's a guy that I really want to see, like, as an actual bounce back. Jonathan Drouin.
Yeah. I don't know what to expect from him anymore.
I don't either. And I hope there's good things.
Yeah.
But it's just, he's so far removed now. And he's dealt with both injury and mental struggles.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, what is Jonathan Drouin anymore?
This is my personal opinion. I don't think we're going to see the best of Jonathan Drouin until he leaves Montreal.
I do think that I think their most solid part of their forwards is their bottom six.
Which is usually a sign that you're a bad team.
Because
when
it's
you
like
look at the roster and you're like, hey, the bottom six isn't bad.
Because like they kept Rem Pitlick, and I love that. You can put Sean down there, right? You got Michael Pezzetta, who's great. You got Jake Evans, who knows his role. Right? Paul Byron knows exactly what his role is. There's Belzile. They just signed Beck to his entry level. You got Joel Armia, who's great, and a guy who's an old flame of ours, who is very much not panning out as much as they hoped in Josh.
Well, and that's the thing. Is Josh Anderson actually a bottom six? Or he should be, but are they going to play him a lot in the top six? You bet your fucking ass they are.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be a second line guy for the majority of the year.
You might see him on the top line at times. Yeah, it's just, they like him for, and like I said, a lot of times it's relative. I don't dislike Josh Anderson as a player. I just
we've loved Josh.
It's contracts factor in. Here's the thing that fans need to understand.
Yes,
contracts do not factor in to how much a coach likes a player.
Yes,
a coach doesn't give a shit if you're paying a guy, $1.5 million or $5.5 million
or $11 million.
Yeah, they're gonna construct the lineup that they like the best.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna play players where they like them the best. And Josh Anderson has value. He is a talented player. He's big. He can score goals. He's not a great passer. He shouldn't be making $5.5 million. But at the end of the day, they don't give a shit. They're gonna play
he's making his paper. He's making what he's making. That's fine.
Yeah. So that's just something I think that sometimes
put the money on the back burner for now.
Yeah.
Okay, their defense. I like a lot of the individual players on this, but it's just how do you piece this together?
One move I really liked in regards to defense is Michael Matheson.
Mike Matheson is going to be a big part of this.
I like that move. They move on from a guy who's starting to age in Jeff Petrie. Very good defenseman, but
Petrie's still good, yeah.
He's still good. He just doesn't fit long term into your plans because of his age. So you get someone who's a little bit younger, who I thought was really good for the Penguins last year.
He looked great. Yeah, he looked very solid. You still have Joel Edmondson leading the charge, at least with a letter.
Yeah, which
he's a good character guy.
Yeah, no, I love it when my very expensive defensemen
is just a character guy.
Very good character guys.
Oh man,
let me tell you, man, that's the thing I love about this Canadiens team. A lot of good character on this team.
You got a Quebec kid who we love because he's one of ours in David Savard.
Yeah,
and
a lot of character with David Savard.
We know what David can do.
Yeah, I like David. He's middle pairing, bottom pairing defenseman who's good
at this point. Because I mean, he's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
They got Weidman, who I like, who's about the same age as Savard.
He's got a little bit of offense to his game.
They brought in Madison Bowie, which is
okay,
kind of fun.
It'll be an interesting.
It'll be a project.
Yeah.
And then the young guys that they're really putting a lot of their stock in. Well, I guess this guy isn't young. It's just we've never seen him until this year. Shuneman.
Yeah, I don't really have much stock into him. He's a player.
It's just because it's weird because like I looked at his age and it's like, wow, he was born in 95. Okay. So he's
Yeah,
27. So he's like in that make or break territory, right?
right.
And then a guy that's like the youngest out of literally everybody, Justin Barron.
Yeah, he was a part of that Lehkonen deal. I liked him in the draft when he got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one I kind of was hoping that CBJ would have their eyes on.
Mm-hmm.
Decent size, right hand shot, good offensive skill set.
Who'd they end up taking instead? Do you remember?
I think that would have been when they took Chinikov,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken.
Was it a 2020 draft pick? Okay.
I believe so. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, there are bright spots in terms of individual guys, but we know what this year is going to be in terms of the Montreal Canadiens season. And another big factor into that is Carey Price being essentially done.
Yeah.
Which is the saddest thing. And we talked about this.
It is sad. We've talked about it at length because we love Carey Price. They did extend Jake Allen.
They extended 2 years, right?
They're buying into a guy that they like, who they know can handle the workload.
Mm-hmm. And they know that they need to shelter Primo just a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're going to ride the wave with Jake, and you're going to back up with Sam Montembeault, and we know that's going to be the story.
I'm interested to see what they have in Primo because I feel like he's very much in a similar situation as UPL.
Yes.
Wasn't a high pick. He was a 7th round pick, but had high expectations after he had a really, really good run at I believe, Northeastern, similar to Devin Levi, funny enough, but has not translated that into professional league yet. Not a ton of success at the AHL level, but still young, still very young goaltender. Goalies take time, so be patient.
Yes. And I mean, he's not going to be the next Carey Price. Like,
no. Realistically, you're hoping, honestly, that he will be Jake Allen.
I feel like fans of the Canadiens in this era, because they've been spoiled by Carey for so long.
They've been spoiled in goaltending in general.
For years. But that's the thing is, like, when you have Jacques Plante, when you have Ken Dryden, when you have Patrick Waugh,
when you have Carey Price. Hell, you even had a 4 or 5 year period where Jose Theodore was really fucking good.
Theodore wasn't those names.
He wasn't those names, but funny enough, like we've talked about this before, the 4 goalies who have won the Hart, 3 of them were Canadiens goalies, and 1 of them was Theodore.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I think a lot of the younger Canadiens fans need to understand, and I say that as a young guy myself. You're not going to jump from a Carey Price to a Carey Price. You don't jump from a Patrick Waugh to, you're not going to get the next big thing right away.
It's so rare. Like, it's unfathomable how the New York Rangers jumped from Henrik Lundqvist to Igor Shesterkin.
Exactly.
There's a reason we talk about it because it doesn't happen.
Exactly. So going from Carey to Primo eventually, you're not going to see a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to see generational, amazing. He's probably not going to lead you to a cup.
No, but like I said, like with where he's at right now, your hope is that if he develops, he can be a Jake Allen, who is very serviceable, can be a starting goaltender,
yes,
can be a backup goaltender, can
solid enough to get you somewhere,
solid enough to keep you afloat. Not going to lose you a ton of games, not going to steal you a ton of games.
Right. And just to put a bow on it, they are
100%.
finishing 8th.
God, no.
They are
They're lucky there's not a ninth team, or else they'd finish ninth.
It's funny because when I was trying to number these in terms of where I want to place it, I tried to number it backwards.
Yeah.
But my phone corrects it.
Oh.
And it listed as 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 through 15. And I'm like, really? Because I tried to do it in reverse order, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, we're going to go to a better team now.
We're going to go to the tax-free state.
And we're going to go to the Panthers first.
Yeah. So, we'll start with them because most recent division winner.
President's Trophy.
Yeah. They're going to take a significant step back.
They're going to dip.
They replaced Huberdeau with Tkachuk, so they got younger.
And they got
worse on defense because they lost Mackenzie Weegar, and they also brought in a coach who is very well respected and a good coach, but not one who's known for defensive prowess.
I like Paul Maurice.
Yes.
I like Paul Maurice.
I do like him.
I can say that much, that they have a good coach.
They have a stable coach. They know what they can. They know who their coach is, and they know that there's stability with him.
Do you think? Here's my biggest thing with the Panthers, right? Because you have Tkachuk, Barkov, and maybe Lundell.
Yeah.
As a top line.
Mm-hmm.
Duke is out for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a loss for them for sure. They lost Mason Marchment too.
Yeah, that's another decent loss that I think is actually going to bite them.
Yeah. I don't really I don't really factor in too much when you lose rentals. Like losing Giroux was insignificant because he wasn't there most of the year. Mm-hmm. Losing Sherrod isn't too significant because he was a deadline guy.
Mm-hmm. But when you lose guys like a franchise guy like Huberdeau,
mm-hmm.
and when you're losing a guy that broke out with the team before you, but still like knows what he's doing now in Anthony Duclair.
Mm-hmm. When you lose one of your stabilizing defensemen in Mackenzie Weegar.
Yeah.
They're still good. I like
Yeah. And I like that they brought in some filler talent like a Cousins.
Yeah. They got one guy from the Sharks that I really like. What's his name? Balsers.
Oh, they did get Rudolph Balsers. He's great.
I like him.
And then they also brought in Colin White from the Senators.
Yeah, those are two buy low moves that I really like for them that I think you'll see guys bounce back. Balsers, I think, kind of replaces Marchment. He's not going to be as good. But I
think Zito really whiffed with this Huberdeau deal, though. I don't know if I'd call it a whiff as much, but it's just like...
In the short term, they're not better because of this move. What it did was he maximized long-term potential with 2 expiring contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And he got himself a unicorn.
Now, I will say...
Not a lot of players could do what Matthew Tkachuk can do.
It's very interesting to me. Did you hear what Yandel had to say on Spit and Chicklets?
No, I didn't.
He said that during the negotiations, actually there were no negotiations. Zito just told Huberdeau that he wasn't offering anything.
Wow.
And Huberdeau said, "Fuck off."
Wow.
Verbatim. Huberdeau told Bill Zito to fuck off. That's harsh.
Yeah.
It's really... We talked about messy breakups a while ago when Johnny signed here in Columbus.
I think that might factor very well into why Huberdeau bought in and signed a long-term deal with
Calgary. Yeah.
He's willing to give him the money and the term. And second of all, they looked at him and said, "You know what? You want me. You wanted me here."
Right.
I had 1 year left on my deal. I could have, fucked off in the offseason and left you guys just like JG just did, but you still bought into me. I want to be here because of that.
Yes.
So
I do like their forwards. Yeah. I like their forwards. I like Carter Verhaeghe. Matt is going to do his fucking thing. I'm interested to see what he does with Sasha.
Yeah.
Right. I like Sam still. Sam Reinhart is a guy, and Sam. Well, I like both.
Yeah, they got 2 and 4 from that draft. They got 1, 2, and 4 from that draft.
I like both Sams.
Yeah, Sam Bennett plays his role well in the middle six.
Luostarinen and Lomberg are both guys you can rely on down there in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Patrick Hornqvist experiment needs to end.
I thought it was a good experiment for a little bit there, but age has caught up to him. He plays a game that deteriorates very quickly towards the end of an athlete's career.
Yes.
So there's not much in him there, but
I don't think their defense is better.
No, their defense got worse.
Their defense got worse, but at the same time, I do like that they brought in guys that people recognize. They're going to be names to bring in, fans to seats, right?
I mean, what do you mean?
So they're not exactly like the Matt Tkachuk kind of level of guys that'll put your ass in seats.
Yeah.
But they are guys that at least people like us will recognize.
Right.
They brought in, they signed Mark Stahl. They still have Brandon Montour. They brought in Forsling. MDZ.
They had Forsling.
They still have Forsling, sure. MDZ is there.
Yeah.
We love us some MDZ.
I like MDZ. I think he fits what they do.
Good depth guy for them. Good energy guy for them. They got Lucas Carlson.
Yeah.
And then they also brought in Anthony Bitetto, who Bitetto is an interesting story.
He actually was not terrible last year.
No, he was great. He was very serviceable with what he could do.
Yeah.
And I think that Bitetto will actually see more time with Florida than he's seen in the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's a very weak defense. There's not a lot of depth.
Well, like I said,
technically a defensive coach. He's very go, which does match the skill of the forward group, which is great. But
that's the thing is, does this hold up this year?
I think
does that high octane hold up this year?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't hold up obviously as well as it did last year, but I think it'll hold up. They have 2 guys that they can rely on in Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight, who they obviously believe in.
Yep, and their third guy is a decent option in Alex Lyon.
Yeah. So I think they're fine in net. They got a really good forward group.
Mm-hmm.
Their defense sucks. They're going to win a lot of high scoring games.
Yep.
And this kind of style of hockey, I think, will take them to the playoffs and have them out of the playoffs in the first round. This is a team I am praying. If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, this is a team I am praying that we face in the first round.
Yeah, a 2-3 matchup of Toronto and Florida could be.
Oh my God, that absolutely favors Toronto.
It favors Toronto, and it could go like even if it goes 7 and it brings in demons and it brings in all the heebie-jeebies that all the Maple Leafs have. The thing about the Leafs is the majority of this, I believe, is now mental.
Yeah, 100%.
It's 200% mental at this rate in Leafland. But with Florida, you have a team that, just won their first round since the year before I was born.
And here's a question for you. Did they exercise their demons?
No.
I don't think they did. They won a playoff series. They won a very ugly playoff series and followed it up with a total stinker against Tampa.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much they, quote unquote, exercise demons. I'm not sure they really did. If they had beaten Washington the way they did, you can live with that. If they had beaten Washington and then gone 6 against Tampa, like they did the year prior,
yes,
people would feel a lot different, I think, about that question. But they got stomped by them. They scored 3 freaking goals in that series?
Something like that. It was abysmal.
Yeah.
But it's like that just goes to show that the kind of offense that they provided last year, that they're still going to provide this year.
Mm-hmm.
As much as it can work in the regular season and get you there, you need to change it up in the playoffs.
100%. Their power play stunk.
Bob couldn't get anything done.
I thought out of everybody in the playoffs for the Panthers, I thought Bobrovsky was probably the best.
He was, but at the same time, he just couldn't. Like
He couldn't carry the team on his absolute back
no.
because they weren't scoring. So like,
and then they threw Spencer into the Wolves like that too, and it's like really.
Yeah, it was.
And I like his extension.
Pretty
I like
steep.
I like
Pretty
Spencer's
steep.
new deal.
Yeah,
It's nice that they're buying him.
It tells me that this is probably going to be the last year of Bobrovsky there.
Who knows how they're going to be able to move that?
Yeah, who knows? But I would imagine a deal like that means Bobrovsky's leaving sooner rather than later. That's another topic for another day. But
yeah,
and I mean, third.
Because yeah, and I have them finishing third as well. And like I said, they have Lion.
Yeah.
So it's like Knight and Lion.
Why are you always lying?
Oh my god.
All right, the last team I think we could spend the least amount of time on because
we know who these guys are.
Yeah, the number one team is going to be Tampa.
Absolutely. They barely any change.
Oh no, they lost Andre Palat.
Honestly, I think
whatever will they do with only Steven Stamkos and Braden Point and Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel and Victor Hedman and I can go on forever. They're unbelievable.
I know they have so many. What's funny is we texted about this, right? Do you remember a few episodes ago when we mentioned guys with the number 86?
Yeah, and we forgot to mention Nikita Kucherov, who
I'm surprised he was not the first guy we said.
Intro, like when I was talking about their players, I also forgot to mention him again. They have so many fucking weapons.
How do you forget to say Nikita Kucherov as one of your top guys?
You know why? Because he's barely played in the regular season last few years. That is my excuse. That is my excuse for that.
Oh my god. And I mean, like, okay.
What did they even do? I don't remember anything they did this offseason. They're just Tampa. They're good.
The biggest thing that they did was the Hagel deal. And that wasn't even in the offseason.
No, they weren't even the ones who signed that. Hagel was signed by Chicago before he was traded.
But that's the thing, is that was the only.
So, like, they extended Sergachev. They extended Chernak.
Yes.
I want to say they brought back Brian Elliott. I didn't know if his contract was up, but I know he's still there. So
I don't know if, they extended Elliott, and I don't know if Nemesnikov had still been there.
No, he wasn't. He came back.
So he came back? Okay.
Much like Duran will do in a year.
I think the biggest thing with Tampa is because they lost Andre Palat. I want to see.
Got to fill that role.
I want to see either Hagel or Ross Colton.
Nick Paul.
Or Nick Paul.
Nick Paul. They also extended him.
Yeah.
To a ridiculous contract.
To an amazingly huge contract.
Yeah. So, yeah. They're good.
They're fine.
I don't know what more we need to say. They're really, really, really good.
Oh, wait. They lost Ryan McDonough. Oh, boo-hoo, whatever will they do?
Boo-hoo. Yeah.
Because
watch them turn Philip Myers into a carbon copy of Eric Chernak.
I know. Or they could or Cal Foot.
Cal Foot, yeah, also super talented.
They brought in Ian Cole and Hayden Fleury as depth guys.
Yeah. Oh, Hayden Fleury, the former 7th overall pick. Can't wait to watch him play like one.
I know.
Ian Cole, very solid defenseman. Kind of left Carolina on a weird note.
Yeah, but still, it's like, you
also
know what,
a good defenseman.
Hey, Blue Jackets legend.
Yeah, former Blue Jacket. Yeah, they're good.
They're just fine. They're going to finish first. They're going to run to at least the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
Literally, like, the biggest question mark is, do they win their 3rd and 4th?
Yeah, that's the biggest question mark is, can they rest up enough this offseason to get back to the final?
Because they did.
The only thing holding this team back is they played a lot of hockey these last few years.
What's their biggest loss? Derek Lalonde? An assistant coach?
Their biggest loss is either Palat or McDonough, who they already have like in-team replacements for.
It's so wild.
Oh no, we lost Andre Palat, who's only going to be replaced by either Nick Paul or Brandon Hagel.
Or Ross Colton, if push comes
if they
to
want
shove.
to put him on the wing. Sure. Ross Colton, also really good at hockey. Oh no, we lost Ryan McDonough. Okay, we'll bring in Ian Cole and Hayden Fleury, and I'm sure there's already another ridiculous defenseman we haven't heard of who's going to be insane.
Dude, it's so. Oh my god,
it's ridiculous. It's stupid. I'm almost sitting here getting mad. Imagine being a Lightning fan.
It's weird.
The things I would do. The things I would do for a team like this. Good God.
But is it safe to say that I know that Steve Yzerman built the core of this team, but this is now Brisebois' team. This is Brisebois' fingerprints all up and down this.
Yes, he is the one who took them over the top.
And Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the fucking world.
Yeah.
Like,
as if they needed more firepower, they also have the best goalie in the world.
And you have firepower. You have probably the most stable defensive core, maybe outside of Calgary.
Yeah, and Colorado.
Calgary, like you can swap Calgary and Colorado, and then Tampa. Oh
no, they only have the third best defensive core in the league. That's terrible. What happened? With the second or third best defenseman anymore, and that's the second or third best defenseman in the National Hockey League is Victor Hedman. Yeah, Kel McCarr's number one. McAvoy and Fox are up there.
Roman Yossi's still there.
Roman Yossi's still there. He's great.
The fact that I even said that Victor Hedman is the third best defenseman in the NHL makes me want to throw up. Yeah. It's like,
boo-hoo, he fell off. He's only the third best defenseman in the league now.
Oh my god. Okay. I don't know how to wrap this up.
They're good.
They're good.
I think that's the way we have to end this.
They're good. And here, okay, we're gonna list our Atlantic. Mm-hmm. We're gonna list our Atlantic, and then we're just gonna sign off and say, hey, Saturday is our big preview with our guys in Union Blue.
Yep.
So we're probably going to spend that's going to be a 3-hour fucking show.
Really think it's going to be that short?
Short. Dude, our Metropolitan preview is going to be like a Lord of the Rings director's cut.
Yeah. It's going to be ridiculous. So, just in order, I have Tampa 1, Toronto 2, Florida 3, Detroit 4, Ottawa 5, Boston 6, Buffalo 7, Montreal 8.
Oh, man. Okay. Tampa 1, Toronto 2, Florida 3. My differences are Ottawa 4 and Boston 5, and Detroit 6, Buffalo 7, Montreal 8.
All right.
So I have some differences. I have guys that I have faith in.
Yeah. We've had some differences in opinion, but for the most part, we've had pretty similar.
Well, that's the thing. It's the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah. I think the Metro is the one that we are going to be kind of all over the place on.
Get ready Saturday, everybody, for some Metro.
Jake Jackets, a podcast for fifth liners and all puckheads around. Follow the guys on Twitter at Snake Gehringer, GARRINGER, and at by J Ashdown. And subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. March on.